Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit your business or real estate and grow your wealth. I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best financial, wealth, business, and real estate minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest and this topic that we're going to be discussing today. And that's you and your personal finance and trying to cut through, we like to say, the BS and help you to build a clear wealth plan and to take control of with your money. So has your personal finance plan become so complex you can't even understand it? Who wouldn't be confused today? I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of investment pitchmen, mega insurance companies, and even state and federal governments vying for our money and making it more difficult than ever to manage it how we want to. And so simplifying your plan is the answer, and reclaiming what's yours is easier than you think. And I'm excited about our next guest. He is the award-winning financial planner and the author of Keep It Simple, Make It Big. Please welcome to the show with me, Mike Lynch. Hey, Mike, how you doing today?
Doing great, Brett. Doing great.
Well, I'm excited to have you on the show and to dive into your story a bit. And can we start right there? Would you give our listeners a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Okay, well, I've been doing financial planning with businesses and business owners, professionals, and even janitors for about 20 years. And I got into it after a successful career in media, in the think tank world. And what I'm just really passionate about is helping people really live the best life they possibly can and finance it. Just simply finance it. So accumulate wealth, use wealth, and enjoy their life. It's just a great field and a great career. And so that's what I do.
Beautiful. Love that. And to help our listeners get to know you a little bit better, by the way, Mike's out of the great state of Connecticut, and but I'm not sure exactly where you grew up, and you can maybe go back to those days, Mike. But I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this world. Mike, some people call them superpowers, some people call them strengths. And
Sure.
I believe these gifts have been given to each of us as a way to be a blessing and help others. So I'm curious, maybe what are those one or two gifts that you've been given? And how do you believe, or how do those help how you help people today?
Well, I think the first thing, and I try to teach this to my son who's 16, I was given a gift of great parents. And I think if you choose your parents right, life's a lot better. So I was fortunate enough to choose my parents right. And what my parents gave me was a love of people, a love of hard work. One of my clients once said, Mike, you once told us it was a blessing to have hard work to do. And I do believe that. I love what I do. And that just makes every day fun. And then also, as an editor told me back when I was the least educated and polished person on her staff, Mike, you have a great BS detector. And I'm not going to say I can always see through it, but I can see through a lot. So I think if you apply work ethic, you apply a caring for people. Other thing my political philosophy is nobody likes it. I'm an individualist, but more libertarian, free minds, free market type of guy. But I always believe that peoples are an end in of themselves, not a means to anybody else's end. And so if you treat it like my business, working with households, families, and people, it's a gift to be able to treat everybody the way they want to be treated. The golden rule says treat people the way you want to be treated. The platinum rule says treat people the way they want to be treated. And I think if we apply the platinum rule, man, we can get through a lot together. And it really works out. It really works out.
Very well said, and a lot there. And I imagine the Keep It Simple, Make It Big book maybe dives into more of those things. But that is, I love the way you put that, right? And I think I'm like you too, Mike. I'm more of the let's call it independent, libertarian type of thought, right? More of give more freedom and give more I guess power to the people, if you will, right? Versus the big. But you expand on that a little bit?
Sure, and I will. Another thing about me is actually I grew up right down the road from you in Davis, and my family business, which has now transferred 4 times, general engineering, underground construction. And so I grew up, I was welding by the time I was 13. I had my truck license at 18. So I kind of bounced from the heavy construction world to the college and the white collar world. And being able to do that again gives you a lot of respect for people. And it really equalizes things. Because the first thing I figured out, we all think college professors are smart. Why? Because they use big words to confuse people. But put a college professor on a construction site for about 10 minutes and see how confused they are with the big words we use, right? Like it's just all jargon. Like I'm a big believer and we're all pretty much the same with the, we just, some of us have different strengths. We look at the world differently, and it's that diversity that allows us to go, that allows us really to move forward. So now I get into BS. One of the things that I think is absolutely fantastic is our financial system and our personal financial system. You'll hear people cry, complain, moan, oh, pensions are gone. We need pensions. Oh, we need lifetime annuity. A couple points on that. One, most people never, ever had pensions. It was just a few people that were for big corporations or government. Second, in those days, the standard of living was a lot lower. People didn't retire with a lot of money. They didn't pass a lot of wealth on, did they? It was your business owners that could pass wealth. But your average person, what did they have? A bank account, a small whole life policy, and a low standard of living, Social Security, and maybe if they were for government or corporation, a small pension. What do we have now? 401ks where you can put $19,000 a year away in. We hear a lot, oh, people don't have access to retirement plans. Really? Everybody can have an IRA, and you can get an IRA everywhere, including probably 7-Eleven if you wanted to. So that allows everybody to put $6,000 in. So the people that don't have access to retirement plans typically are lower paid, work for lower income, they have lower wages. The problem of lower compensation, correct? Well, 6,000 is 10% of 60,000. If you invest 10% of what you earn right out of the chute in your 20s, you don't even have to work in your 60s. And it doesn't matter how much you earn if you do 10%. So everybody in America does have access to a retirement plan. That's another bit of BS that we always hear out of Washington and the mainstream press and the journalists that just simply don't know how the world works. And then you take the tools and you layer it on where you got IRAs, you got 401ks, you have Roth IRAs. So you can tax arbitrage when you're young and not making anything, put in a Roth. My son's 16, he's already got a Roth IRA. Why? Because he worked this summer and I put the money in a Roth for him. That's going to be $1 million based on trend line returns by the time he's old like me. It's unbelievable the tools that are available. Health savings accounts. Right out of college, when I was 30 years young, that's what I was working at a free market think tank in San Francisco, Pacific Research Institute, for a woman by the name of Sally Pipes, who was a Canadian economist who didn't really like single-payer healthcare. So we were talking, I was giving speeches on health savings account, saying this is a solution. Let people have their tax break, invest their money, and carry it with them. We got that now. This is just unbelievable. So getting to your point, wealth transfer and taxes. This generation that's coming now, my clients, my generation, your generation, the amount of wealth we're going to accumulate because of this fantastic, accidental, much maligned personal finance system in the United States of America based on personal responsibility, personal savings, and deferring your taxes that they're going to, rapacious politicians are going to grab from you right now, and it's going to get worse. That is, it's really going to create intergenerational wealth, and we're just now scratching the surface. So yeah, I tend to be positive, I tend to be optimistic, and I tend to have a real passionate anger towards the constant negativity that is in every single thing you write by somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about, which is to say journalists, right? Whether they're personal finance or otherwise, because they don't work with the people. They're not on the ground. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I love how you're connecting, Wall Street or Main Street and working. I have a similar background, by the way. I grew up in the Bay Area. My dad building custom homes, right? I had bobcats hammering nails, moving bricks, right? Learning hard work, like a really hard work day. We would wake up early in the morning. I mean, it would be before the sun would rise. Yeah, I remember we wouldn't have the most healthy breakfast. We stop at McDonald's in a real quick biscuit, and a sausage, patty, whatever. And then we would work. And then about noon or so, the taco wagon would come by, and it would be ringing. I remember running over there, eating.
Roach Coach.
The Roach Coach. Yep. And then we would work another, I don't know, 5 or 6. I mean, for us, it was kind of play and work. We were pretty young, my brother and I. But he got to drive the Bobcat. I would watch him. I remember at one point he's driving the Bobcat and he's moving some dirt. And I don't know, he's got to be maybe 11 years old. Maybe I'm 9. Maybe he's 10. Maybe I'm 8. We're pretty young. Mm-hmm. Probably even younger. I want to say maybe he was 8 and I was 6. Yeah. and he's on the edge of this I don't know, building out a pool for somebody. I don't know exactly what it was,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
he's like on the edge of, it's too heavy and he's about to tilt over and he's screaming, and I'm just going, wow. I mean, so those type of things, and then you can connect that. And I like the way you put it. Like, you put a university professor on a job site, and they're going to be confused too.
Of
So
course.
too often we're taking something and perhaps putting false beliefs that it's too complex, it's too much, and you're going, no, it's not actually. And if you just get with someone like Michael Lynch and help them to clarify your wealth plan and clarify what's real and what's BS, right? Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, I think so. And what tools you have available to you. So different people have different tools, and different people have different relationships to that great tax code and regulatory structure that we have out there called the United States, and then state governments. And so the advice that you hear, whether I'm giving it to you right now, I did a radio show for 10 years. The first thing I said is, don't take advice off the radio. We don't know your situation. Or the person at the water cooler, we don't know your situation. There's a big famous guy. He's a personal finance commentator. I like him a lot. I actually do. I like his values. But he's talking to people with an average household income of $45,000, $50,000. That's very different than talking to people with an average income of $150,000, $250,000, $350,000, $450,000, $500,000. You have different relationships to debt, different relationships to taxes, different relationships to what the true risks are. And so you need a customized plan. But once you figure out where you are, the reason why it gets simple is you exclude everything else. You exclude everything else. When you're going water skiing, you don't have to worry about what the snow skiing equipment is, because it's not for you. You're going to be in the water, being yanked behind a boat. When you're going duck hunting, you're figuring out what kind of shotgun you need. You're not worrying about what the pound test is on the fishing line. And that's how wealth is. People, if you got to understand your situation, and your situation will likely be understandable and pretty simple, clear how you go about to really jack up and build your wealth. Right? For financial
Beautiful.
independence. Yeah.
Yep. Beautiful. That's amazing. I want to dive in maybe some of the biggest secrets, because our show is mostly high net worth individuals selling businesses or real estate or other highly appreciated assets. And they know about capital gains tax. They know about 1031 exchanges. They may be learning about the deferred sales trust for the first time, which is what we specialize in.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, Mike, what's some of the biggest secrets for high net worth individuals to keep it simple, right, and not make mistakes with the wealth that they've accumulated?
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of the things is, speaking of business, I just transacted a business transaction for our last family business, and it was a joy of my life, because again, I said I picked good parents, and I did. And oh, by the way, my mom used to get up at 5 a.m., make me and my brother a full breakfast, and then put us on the way to the construction job. And then she would go back to bed. So that's how good my mama was. But anyway, when we got the proceeds, and gonna work with the proceeds, there's no magic to really investing when you're looking at the security markets. You got cash, you got bonds or fixed income, and you got equity or stock. And then from your point of view, you got real estate, right? Which is basically an equity asset, but it has some unique characteristics. But it's a capital asset and it's an equity asset, right?
Correct.
So the point is don't get bamboozled by, I got a better mousetrap, I can predict the markets, I can time you in and out, I'm worth a 2% fee and then 20% of your upside. I won't do it, right? Keep it simple. Spread it out. Who predicted last year? Not one Wall Street person not one had coronavirus in their annual reports. And yes, in their predictions for the year. And yes, it was already known by the time those predictions were made. Was it not? It was already through China, right? So what's going to happen this year now with this election? There's so many different scenarios there are. So what you have to do is you have to create a simple strategy, stay liquid where you need to be liquid. Now, real estate people can really understand that. High net worth people can understand that. You need to be able to get a dollar when you need a dollar without liquidating an asset that you feel is valued at a dollar at 50 cents. You know what I'm saying? So you have to have liquidity facilities. Higher net worth people, they might be lines of credit, they might be asset-backed loans, or it might be money in the bank. Second, you need to have money that's going to grow for the future if you want to grow. And if you don't want to grow it, I'm like, what are you doing? You're letting somebody else grow it. So why do you love the bank so much? You want them to use your money? They give you nothing. They lend it out of 5. Where's your return, right? So I am biased towards people sort of growing their wealth. I think it's like riding a bicycle. You can't stand still on a bicycle. You got to go forward, right? If you certainly don't want to go backwards. And so I think, that's it. Keep it simple. If you keep it simple, you use stuff that's easy to understand. You understand your investments. Like the strategies you use, they're completely understandable. They're understandable. They're transparent. You know what's going on. And then you just keep an eye on the dollars, right? Who's getting paid for what and what are they doing to earn it? And there you go. And you know that nothing's too good to be true. And finally, the last thing I'll say, and this is to everybody, don't believe in magic. If government stimulus was so great, we'd be speaking Russian or Spanish right now, right? The reason why they went from Cuba to the United States and not the United States to Cuba, right? Okay. Dollars chasing goods are going to give you inflation. So you got to keep it simple. Second thing is don't fall for it. Like, something like out there right now, there's stuff that's really high priced. Some stuff that's really high priced are very good businesses, but they might not be worth that price. So if you invested in them at a high price, you may not have returns for a while, but the business might stay solvent. And there's other stuff out there that's akin, in my opinion, to the Dutch tulip mania. And if you don't know what the Dutch tulip mania is, you really should look it up. And you can see how speculative excesses can really bubble up. There's a great book by John Kenneth Galbraith called Crashes, Excesses, and Other Manias. And he wrote it in the 50s, and it's always been in print because every 10 years there's another speculative bubble that makes it a popular book. It's very well written, and if you haven't read it, you should read it. It's a lovely book with a lot of truth in it. And then the last thing is don't fall for scams. See, what happens is we know that people get scammed by financial scammers. We got them on our telephones. They call up the IRS. It's terrible. They're stealing money. Wealthy people, that happens to wealthy people too. We don't hear about it because they're embarrassed and they absorb the loss. But the losses are a lot bigger for wealthy people. They just simply absorb the losses because we tend to think, and Galbraith is good at this, in America, if you're good at something, you make money, right? You tend to. And so then since it's denominated money, we tend to think people with money are smart. No, they might just be good at hitting a baseball. They might just be good at this. There's no reason to think that they're generally smarter than middle-class people, right? They've just focused and done well. So just be very, very careful. In investments, one thing I call them are genius attacks. You don't want genius attacks. Genius attacks was a financial crisis. Everybody thought, oh no, all assets couldn't decline at the same time. Lever it up, there won't be a problem. Yeah, no problem.
Beautiful, Michael. Well, that's so much there and so much to unpack. But one of the things I want to kind of focus on, which I think is really key, is the liquidity aspect and also the diversification, and then keeping it simple and not overpaying for something that is not providing the value, right? And that's something that we pride ourselves on with the Deferred Sales Trust. We say, hey, we're going to bring tons of value by deferring all kinds of tax. And we just closed a deal south of Santa Cruz, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours from Davis, UC Davis. And for those who don't know,
I went to UC Santa Cruz. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You went to UC Santa Cruz. Okay, great.
2 years, only 2 years.
Okay.
That's why I know Marxism.
Hey, got it. Well said. Yeah. So this particular asset, she's in her 70s, and it's owned it for 25 years ish, and it's worth about $900,000. It's Airbnb rental, a beach house, right? It used to be like a family house. Now it's a beach, rental, but to the point where it's so highly appreciated, it's $7.9 million. That's what it's worth, right? And then Airbnb is going on. Then you have Gavin Newsom with some rent control stuff, or eviction control stuff, and all kinds of craziness going on this last year. She's finally like, I'm done. I'm not going to own this anymore. I don't want to rent it anymore. I'm ready just to retire, but from the toilets, trash, and liability. But at the same time, I don't want to have to pay massive tax. And so for the first time, she used the Deferred Sales Trust. It was brand new to her, used to the 1031 exchange. Her son actually is in the financial, kind of securities world. Yep. So very sophisticated, very smart. He had never heard of it. Very, very skeptical though. But we taught him, kept it as simple as we can, right? And now they closed it, but it's transformational for the family. They don't have to 1031. They don't have to overpay for property. They don't have to be in debt, and they can have liquidity. The funds are all liquid right now. So many aspects to that. And I'm curious from your perspective, Mike, maybe you're hearing about it for the first time. I know we're meeting for the first time.
Sure.
When you, what are your thoughts on things like a deferred sales trust or things that are new? How do you vet them to find out if it passes the BS test and if it's actually a good product for potential clients?
Well, I think it is that you got to vet it. Okay. So, the great thing, one, the internet's sort of ruined now because it used to be like you'd Google and whatever the best stuff was come up top. Now, when you Google it, whoever's paying the most money comes up top. So your user rule used to be the first page was good. Now you pretty much got to dig to your 10th page to find anything good, but you start there. And then what you do is you have a network of good, high quality tax and estate people that you would go through. Right? And you would talk to them and say, have you heard about this? What are the pros? What are the cons? Has it been adjudicated yet? Right? So has the IRS come at it? Has the IRS come at it? And if they came at it, what happened and when? And then you always look, and I think this for personal, it's all the same. What's the worst thing that could happen? What's expected? What's likely? What do you call a win? What do you call success? What's the worst thing that could happen? And could you live with it? And then, what are alternatives? And so if you look at all that factor, what you know in life is that nothing's perfect. There's no such thing as a low maintenance spouse. I wasn't sexist, a low maintenance spouse. Okay. There's no unicorns out there. So you're always given to get something. So again, with the BS detector is if it seems like you're not giving something, that's when you need to be worried. So that's how we vet it out. And, stuff can work fantastic for people like that. Like taxes, it's not what you earn, it's what you keep. And as we move in these environments, I was on another show, and a guy asked me, what would I do with taxes go up? Well, one of the things I said is, believe it or not, I invest about a good third of my money into this stuff called variable universal life, which you have to be a registered representative to do. It's a security product. And it keeps taxes away from my investments, and I can go in and out. It's liquid. I just bought cash for my girlfriend. She's, flipping it. I got a very talented creative. She did the art behind me. Girlfriend. I said, baby, maybe you should flip a house. She rehabbed a rental house of mine and got it sold. I said, I'll give you some money to do some more. So there's value in that liquidity. However, that's not that simple. And so I told the same guy that tend not to do it with clients. I said, why? I said, because clients can always look at life insurance as a bill, and nobody wants to pay a bill. So I understand it, so I can use it, but I know from experience it works less well over time on that. So anyway, yeah, I think that's how we vet it. And there's nothing that's perfect. There's nothing that's perfect. But what I like to say too is you want off-label uses. The advantage of a financial planner, someone like me, who's out there, let's go back to construction. You hear a lot, oh, you just want fee-only people. No, you don't. Looks good on paper. You need your builder to know what's on a shelf at Home Depot, right? And when you're on the job, you need your builder to know how to get it done right, and what the inspectors are going to say yes to, and not what some textbook said they're going to say yes to. When they come out there, they're like, you're redoing it. Does that make sense? And it's the same thing in our world. So there'll be a lot of little strategies and stuff that you do with people for taxes, and various things that can work out. Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. So much wisdom there, and I wrote down notes like crazy. Right. First of all, you should have a dream team or have some trusted advisors you've developed relationships with that you can vet any new potential thing that's coming in. Right. Can't agree more. Second, you want to vet it, start your initial research. Right. Third, you want to find out, has it been adjudicated, right? Has the IRS actually tested it, right? You don't want the answer to be, no, the IRS hasn't even, we've never been audited by the IRS. That's not a good sign, right? You want them to have known and have looked and have vetted it. And then also I also add to that too, their actual clients. So whoever is bringing you this new thing that you've never heard of that, sounds amazing for your tax plan, were their actual clients, had they actually performed the track record? Kind of like a doctor, right? If you're going to get surgery, Mike, and I'm going to do an ACL surgery at UC Davis. By the way, that's why I had 2 ACL surgeries done. UC Davis Medical Center. Yeah. Another story, right? But when I showed up, I asked the surgeon, I said, Mr. Surgeon, I said, how many of these have you done? And he said thousands. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, who have you done them for? And they said, well, some of the Sacramento Kings. Oh, okay, great. I'll sign up. Right? You can operate on my knee. And so I think that's super important that the person who's actually doing the legal work has actually faced the IRS with their actual clients and has not lost the patient on the table, and no one's gone to jail, right? So that's what I love about the Deferred Sales Trust. Real quick plug: thousands of closes now, 25-year track record. When I heard about it 11 years ago, too good to be true. I'm at Marcus and Millichap sitting, and we thought we knew everything about 1031 exchanges and tax deferral and da-da-da. And we're sitting there going, no way this thing works, or it's legal, or it's going to hold up. But as I sent referrals, and as each deal passed, and as each IRS audit passed, and now there's over a dozen no-change IRS audits, billions under management, and it just keeps working, including the biggest audit was a $125 million deal in San Diego. And it just keeps working. And yet it's still, we got to face the legal question, which is a great question to ask. But all that being said, you've got to make sure that you have confidence in what you have. And then I'll also add this last part. You said, if it seems like you're not having to give anything, it's probably too good to be true. So yeah, it's not the perfect thing for everybody, right? There's some people who don't want the third-party unrelated trustee. They're meeting this new financial advisor. They're used to maybe managing their own funds, which they can't do in this scenario, right? There's certain guardrails we have to have in place in order to keep the integrity of this trust in a tax deferral way. So I think that's a great point. It's actually a good thing if you're feeling like you're having to, there's some friction or having to give a little bit. That's good, because if they gave you everything, it's probably good to be true. Is that a fair summary, Mike?
Yeah, no, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I want to add something, Brett. I was talking to a client recently on something that I didn't have expertise in it. And it was going to be a legal, it touched on a legal issue. I knew there was no criminality there, but it might not look so good, right? It was somebody who actually saved the older generation, somebody who today is 90, who put a couple dollars in cash. And so how do you get the cash back in the banking system? And the bills were old. So there's no illegal activity. And it was in a state I was in. So I said, look, you need to go to an attorney in your state, that state. And we went and we looked on the web, and we got the elder law attorneys. And I said, hey, people are paying to be on the site, so it doesn't mean they're good or not, but it's a good place to start because at least they're raising their hand as elder law attorney. And she said, well, how will I know if they're good? I said, well, they should be able to explain it to you. What happens, how it goes on, right? Like they've done it before and they know what the issues are, the pros and the cons. So I said, for example, if you ask me, well, what's going to happen when I take money out of my IRA? Well, you're going to get it. We're going to withhold the tax. Goes right there. You get the money right in your account. In January, you're going to get a 1099-R. Here's what's going to be on the line. Like we've done this a few times. We know what's going to happen. If you don't report it 2 years later, you're going to get a deficiency notice. You're going to be scared. When you're scared, you call us. We'll say, no, don't worry. That's typically on capital gains issues that you're like on a sale of a stock or something. We'll tell them what the basis is. So, we know that. And so when you're dealing with them, they should have that path, that beginning to the end. Here's what's likely to happen. Here's what it looked like. Here's what it smells like. Here's how you're going to feel when they say this. And then you can have a lot of confidence, The thing is, in our advisory world, we have client confidentiality is very important. So when people call up and they say, well, I want a referral to 3 of your clients, technically, we're not allowed to. So, that's an issue where you can't just necessarily talk to people because of the rules under the SEC for like that I operate under. I mean, those are interpreted different by different people, but that's a strict interpretation of it. So yeah, don't be scared of new things.
Yeah, exactly. Just go through the vetting process and be early. We like to say be early, right? Because sometimes if I find that if the transaction is closing too quickly and they hadn't pre-planned that, even though intellectually they think it works, emotionally it's hard for them to be like, oh, millions of dollars into this new tax deferral strategy with these new advisors. And so we're like, it's sometimes it's too hard to overcome that emotional thing. So if we can be there early, the better. Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. I love that. And let's dive into the lightning round if you're ready.
All right, let's go.
Okay, knowing what you know now, if you can go back to your 25-year-old self, Mike, what's the one golden nugget that you would make sure that you would do or know?
I did saved and invested right. My only financial regret, and it's about 25, is not buying a condo in DC. So I would have bought a condo in DC. I might have lost it in my divorce, but I still would have owned it.
Fair enough. Excellent. What's the one book you've recommended or have gifted the most in the past year?
Easy. Tom Sowell, Conflict Divisions. Conflict Divisions by Tom Sowell. He's got to be the smartest person I've ever had lunch with who didn't talk to me. But brilliant man. He's in his 90s. And that is a brilliant, brilliant book.
Excellent.
And it's easily accessible. It's only a couple hundred pages, available on Amazon. Go get it.
Excellent. Let's see. So the best investment you've ever made?
The best investment I've ever made. You know, I'd say education, but you learn it on the street. You know, the stocks, I go, diversified mutual funds and ETFs. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I think. It's working hard. I think it's a work ethic. I got to tell you, I owe everything to work ethic and reading about a book a week. I love to consume material. You know what? I'll tell you my best investment I ever made. It was sitting at the kitchen table in my San Francisco apartment when I'd gone to work for a think tank, and it dawned on me that I didn't go to English class and I didn't know U.S. grammar because I would write stuff and then give it to a girl to fix before we turned it into the teacher or the professor. So I actually went back, I got all the grammar books, and I invested in my own time to learn the English language. And by learning that, it allowed me to become a very good communicator, and hopefully I'm vindicating that today. And when you become a communicator, you're able to think well and you're able to convey your ideas. So my best investment ever made was taking the time on my own time, nobody else's time, to learn the English language and learn how to communicate. That was my best investment.
Beautiful. Get back to school, people. What's the one thing that you're most curious about for 2021?
I'm most curious about the general idea that seems to be floating around out there that in investment community is worst place, that government stimulus is somehow bringing prosperity, and that government stimulus by handing out small amounts of money to a lot of people that don't need it and ignoring the large amount of money that the few people in pain do need, that's somehow going to create a great economy. And I'm not talking about a sugar high over the next 6 months. I'm old enough to remember the 70s. And so I remember stagflation. And that's what I'm curious about. At what point do we say no and actually target our medicine? So that's what I'm most curious about for the next 12 months. We'll see.
I am too. Right? How long can we eat cotton candy and sugary Coke and not have the effects on our health of our economy? So amazing, Mike. Last question, and this will kind of just encapsulate, hopefully, our conversation a little bit more about you, but also help us to get a sense of how you've been able to succeed in your life and stay centered. And this is the question: after all your success, becoming a certified financial planner, right? You're working in, growing up in welding and going to UC Davis, Santa Cruz, Connecticut now, all of that. How do you stay centered in your values, Mike? And how do you stay encouraged to reach for new goals?
Well, I love to read. I love to learn. So, and people say, well, how do you get so much done? So this year I got a book published. My second book's almost done. I actually got my truck license back. I went back and got my CDL. I like driving trucks. So I got that done. I got 2 kids, 1 special need child. And I say center basically on being really mindful and focused on what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, with a smile on my face. And I don't have to like all of it, but I like most of it. Second, what I spend 0 time on is what a lot of people spend a lot of time on. I don't particularly enjoy TV, so I don't watch TV hardly at all. I don't follow the news very close, like DC politics. It's just designed to agitate me, and I have no control over it. So we don't spend a lot of time on that. And my dad says I'm a dysfunctional male. I'll watch almost no sports. Don't read about sports. So I'll turn it on Sunday if I'm right in front of the TV. I understand it, but it's not something I voraciously do. So that's the way I sort of try to stay centered, really being mindful, having a great time, doing what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, and not living in regret. So a lot of people when they're at work, they wish they're at home. When they're at home, they're worried about work. I don't worry about it. I do what I do when I do it. And the final thing is I fish. I fished 40 times this summer. 40 times. My coach Montana, all on airplanes, by the way, didn't die, and went fishing 40 times. So that ain't bad.
That's amazing, Mike. Well, I want to thank you for sharing so much with us in a short period of time, a bit about your story, so much wisdom. I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts that you've been given to be a blessing to others. And for our listeners who want to get in touch with you, Mike, what's the best place for them to find you?
Go right on my book website, simpleandbig.com. So it's just simpleandbig.com. You can send an email off of that. That's probably the best way to do it. Otherwise, email is mlynch, MLYNCH, at barnumfg.com. So you can get me either one of those places, and happy to help in any way I can. I do work nationally.
Beautiful, Mike. We want to thank you for being on the show. And that wraps up another Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. And I also want to thank our listeners and our viewers on YouTube and Facebook for watching another and listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, to exit your business or real estate or other highly appreciated asset. By the way, it works for stocks, works for cryptocurrency. It works for collectibles, artwork. We'd love the opportunity to show you how to do that. And you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more about that. And also, if you're a business professional, you want to learn how to use the Deferred Sales Trust to add value to your clients and help them out, go to experttaxsecrets.com to learn about that. We appreciate everybody. Please rate, review, subscribe, and hope to talk and see you real